Hello, I'm the Resolute Cartographer, and this is Watoga High School, home of the Lions. Within its walls, the teenage children of the wealthy citizens of Watoga were educated in one of the highest tech educational institutes in Appalachia. When examining the school, we're going to start with a look at its location and layout before covering the history of its operations. Watoga High School lies at the end of Tomorrow Lane at the southeastern corner of Watoga, adjacent to and sharing the parking lot of the Watoga train station just to its southwest. Along with the option of walking across a pedestrian bridge over East Innovation Street, or riding one of the school buses, students could also potentially arrive via the nearby monorail station just to its northeast. There isn't too much to see outside the building apart from a sitting area and a polling place. The structure can be accessed via 3 doors: the front entrance, the auditorium entrance, and the roof entrance. Within the building there are areas open to all students: the halls and central atrium with its majestic lion statue, the cafeteria with its serving line, vending machines, and seating areas both by the kitchen and by the atrium, the library, which has a librarian's desk, study areas, microfiche readers, and empty bookshelves, the auditorium where a musical called Home Sweet Home was being put on along with its wardrobe, and for students with premium storage passes, the premium locker area with locker caddy robots. Unfortunately for students requiring elevator access, the elevators appear to have been out of order on the second floor and completely missing on the ground floor. Staff areas include the office, the headmaster's office, and the teacher's lounge. There were 6 classrooms: the computer science lab, art studio, biology, history, math, robotics, and science. From the intercom's announcements, it's clear that the classes held in these classrooms rotated just as often as the flip signs, to additionally allow for English, French, music theory, photography, and psychology. It's from these flip signs and an additional announcement about the marching band's trip to Japan that it becomes clear that Watoga in-game is a truncated version of the city in the Fallout universe. This is of course a strange thing to consider, as the video game genre is the home of the Fallout universe, but there is precedence for this in other areas of the game. In the clinic in Harper's Ferry, the Carson family, Free States members, were banned from receiving medical treatment, with a suggestion that they be referred to Morgantown or Charleston. Though there is a medical facility in Charleston, there is no medical facility in Morgantown. There is also a way station in Morgantown, referred to in one of the Grafton Pawn Shop entries, that is nowhere to be found. Watoga's truncation has removed, among other things, potential sports fields for Watoga High School, and, much more interestingly, Watauga University. That's right, from the history classroom flip sign, we know that the history class had a visiting lecturer, Professor Duval of Watauga University. This piece of information has finally given me an explanation for the absence of any sign of the statewide science fair that responder Kesha McDermott said she was coordinating in Watauga before the bombs. It seems entirely likely that Watauga University would host this event. Back to the high school though. As I mentioned before, Watoga High School was one of the highest tech institutes of learning in Appalachia, where every class had a robotic assistant teacher. Unfortunately, for the students at least, the teaching didn't always match up to the tech, or it was stifled by the corporate donors to the school. The chemistry teacher, Mr. LeMay, appears to have been somewhat incompetent, judging by the fact that in a demonstration to his students he injured himself severely enough to warrant missing school. Mr. Dobert, the physics teacher, noted with glee that the students didn't want to learn anything, and rather than attempt to pique their interest, or even just teach them regardless of their lack of interest, he decided to let them reprogram the assistant teacher to take their tests for them. Not all the teachers were bad, though. History teacher Clara Duran noted that the school books for her subject were effectively just advertisements for Robco and Vault-Tec. While I personally would love to get a look at those books even if they are just corporate propaganda, Miss Duran wanted to make sure that her students got a proper education. She decided to take her students on a field trip to the old Allegheny Asylum, a decision that would give her an excuse to study the old structure. Undoubtedly, the strangest teacher at Watoga High School is Vincent Maylily, the Robo-Brain art teacher. In his past life, Mr. Maylily was a prominent local artist in Watauga. When his possible placement as a teacher came to light, community and donor pressure to hire him was overwhelming. Headmaster Reginald R. Reinhold III was not a fan of Mr. Maylily when his skullcap was bone, and thus he wasn't chomping at the bit to hire him as a bot. When his hand was forced and he had to hire Mr. Maylily, Headmaster Reinhold sent an angry letter to his staff telling them that he was extremely disappointed that they leaked the possibility. Of all the teachers on the job, you have to give Mr. Maylily the award for persistence, as he's the only teacher still on the job after these 25 years. Another functional machine within the school is the S.M.A.R.T machine, S.M.A.R.T being an acronym for Sugar Management and Re-Education Terminal. Located in the atrium at the center of the school, the machine allowed students to bring their Halloween candy in and exchange it for prizes. As the science teacher noted, these machines could take candy as a form of currency. The supposed idea behind this machine was that it would allow students to make the smart choice and not consume the unhealthy candy, but this point is somewhat undercut by the fact that there are still Nuka-Cola machines in the school, with Nuka-Cola being the beverage with 120% of your daily recommended value of sugar. The S.M.A.R.T machines led to the theft of candy by students, and to echo a point by a concerned parent, the operation of the machines contained a gambling aspect, as the rewards for exchanging your candy were randomized. All in all, I'd say that the S.M.A.R.T machine doesn't seem to have been a very smart idea for the school. An event that provided usable candy currency for the S.M.A.R.T machine still takes place at the school to this day, the Monster Mash. The Monster Mash is one of the oddest concepts I've ever seen. The teachers would race to find a large, head-covering mask loaded with Halloween candy. Once the mask was on, students armed with bats would chase the masked teacher, knocking candy out of the oversized head. The teacher that finished with the most candy in the mask would be awarded the most money out of the budget for supplies for their class the following year. Claire Duran, the history teacher who hated the practice, requested a vacation day, rather than be struck about the head. Mr. Dobert and the other science teachers loved the event, secretly dosing with Med-X to win every year. The way the headmaster refers to the event reminds me of the Purge, or the Fugue Feast from the Dishonored series, letting the students blow off steam in a day of violence. While the students at the school didn't suffer any material shortage, their parents' wealth afflicted them with a shortage of moral character. Some of these students destroyed the chemistry lab and either maimed or killed the chemistry teacher in the course of carrying out a prank in November of 2076. In a message to the school, Headmaster Ryan Holt related that he had carried out a random locker search that yielded, quote, a significant cache of highly illegal paraphernalia, unquote. Though we don't know what was found, we do know that he has stepped up security scans of the students' lockers and bags. This increased scrutiny caused even more illegal acts by the students. The students of Watoga High School were drinkers, and the beverage of choice was moonshine, produced by Eli, a bootlegger in the bog to the northwest of the bog town. When Eli found that security had been increased, he refused to make further deliveries to the high school for fear of being caught. Rather than discuss an alternative agreement with Eli, a group of students led by ringleaders Jackson and Jesco grabbed their baseball bats and traveled to his shack in the bog in the darkness of night. They retrieved their shipment and threatened Eli with violence if he didn't make the next shipment as previously agreed to. In response to the threats, Eli created a beverage so potent he thought it might, quote, explode in their bellies, unquote. Jackson eventually returned to the shack and murdered Eli in his sleep, but was unable to find his key to access the stills in the basement. Without access to booze on site, Jackson went home, stopping off to get a drink in Bogtown. Some of the students of Watoga High School likely found the transition to Raider life relatively easy. When the robots of Watauga suddenly turned violent on Friday, October 22, 2077, chaos reigned in Watauga. I don't believe that the robots of Watoga High School were on the same control system, but I don't know that for a fact. If they were independent of centralized control, it likely bought the students some time to get out of the city safely. If not, the assistant teachers in every classroom would have suddenly attempted to murder every student under their control. We don't know too much about the chaotic day between the robotic revolt and the nuclear detonations the next day, aside from the wholesale killing of civilians in the city by the servants that had once made their lives easy. The army was making an attempt to retake Watauga when the bombs fell. Luckily for many of the people likely camping just outside the city when it happened, the history teacher Miss Duran had studied the Allegheny Asylum and knew that it would make an excellent place to hold out. She led the bedraggled refugees to the thick stone walls of the old mental institution. For 5 months, the community she created at the asylum held together. That ended with a raid from Bogtown in March of 2078. The group splintered, half heading into the mountains near Monongah, and the other half, led by Miss Duran, attempted to make the trek to Harper's Ferry. Many years later, a Knight of the Appalachian Brother to Steel would breathe his last on the roof of the high school, succumbing to the wounds he sustained in the fight against the Scorched. That pretty much covers the story of Watoga High School. In the next video, we're going to cover the actions of atomic mining services in Watauga and the Cranberry Bog. This has been the Ears of the Cartographer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.